Welcome to the Waste of Web Space podcast, episode 67.
Starring
Jimbo.
and Fisher.
And yeah, we're back. Unfortunately, we wanted to be live today, didn't we? Like we were last week, because it went really well last week, actually. And it saved me a lot of time being live. But
No,
you know, you work in IT, Fisher. Why does it sometimes work and it sometimes doesn't?
No, Jimbo. We wanted to be live yesterday, but it failed. So now we want to be live today, and it failed again. So we're doing a standard recording like we have done in the past. So this is not getting streamed on Facebook Live, in spite of the fact you told people that it was going to be streamed on Facebook Live.
Twice.
Have we actually told them that it's not going to be streamed, or we just left them?
We'll just have to leave them. I'm sure they'll realise we're not up and running, but you know,
yeah.
I can't do everything at once. So they'll work out. They'll work out we had problems still. I deleted the video, so they can't get to us.
Yeah, the live. Technically speaking, I suppose it's episode 68, isn't it? After the 6 or 7 minute go we did.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Because we for those that saw the actual 5 to 10 minutes of live that we did on Sunday, we didn't really do much, did we?
No, we just ambled on like we always do.
It's like they're going, can't quite hear you, Fisher. Quite hear you, Fisher.
What? Can you speak up, please? What? I can't hear. What? Hey? Oh, no, not again.
So we've gone back to the old-fashioned way, which is going to keep me up late, and my laptop will be still on tomorrow morning trying to finish its job. But never mind, we'll get there. Next week we'll try again, won't we? We're not going to give up. I'm going to work tirelessly this week to work out a better way of doing it. But anyway, so this episode is entitled Churchill in a Box, because, of course, with all the protests and everything, there's some statues that have been quite at risk, haven't they? Have been taken down due to historic sort of racism or comments that people might have made, or links to the slave trade and things like that. And the Winston Churchill statue has obviously been at risk as well, because, you know, let's face it, although, you know, Winston Churchill was sort of seen as a great war hero for sort of being prime minister during the war and guiding Europe and the UK to victory, I suppose. He was quite opinionated, weren't he?
Yeah, to be fair, he didn't guide all of Europe to victory.
Yeah.
He guided the UK to victory and the Allies. But his statue was vandalised. Someone sprayed on there Churchill. I think underneath he put "was a racist." I mean, obviously, they clearly haven't heard who he was up against at the time, who he could definitely give him a run for his money on that front. And what amazed me, though, was that they have, as you say, put a massive, great big box around the statue of Winston Churchill and various other statues. It's very disappointing in this day and age that the vast majority of government PPE seems to be going to statues and not our NHS workers who actually might need it a lot more.
Ridiculous. So the title of our podcast today is Churchill in a Box, and here is our little song. Instead of living in a box, by living in a box, it's Churchill in a Box. Churchill in a box. It's Winston in a metal box. It's Churchill in a box. It's Winston in a metal box. It's Churchill in a box. It's Winston in a metal box. It's Churchill in a box. It's Winston in a metal box. We're not talking about the dog, no. It's Churchill in a metal box. It's Churchill in a box. It's Winston in a metal box. It's Churchill in a box. It's Winston in a metal box. It's Churchill in a box. It's Winston in a metal box. Took me ages, those lyrics.
Yeah, it's a bit repetitive, isn't it?
So, what have you been up to, Fisher?
Well, should we just claim that we had the same conversation that we had yesterday morning, where I claimed I'd been watching last night's Pointless Celebrities?
Oh, yeah.
So
tell me about Pointless Celebrities, Fisher.
Well, I've just been watching it now. If we imagine now was yesterday morning. It was on Saturday evening. It seems to be getting a bit of a prime time slot nowadays, Pointless Celebrities. And obviously Pointless Celebrities is the celebrity version of the TV show Pointless. It's not just a documentary about the life and times of Piers Morgan. Thank you very much. And the question was, can you name a word in the first half of the alphabet, so from A to M, that ends with the letters O-L-E? And the contestants put in some absolutely amazing answers. One person said guacamole, which I think scored 9 points. And then a pointless answer, a contestant said asystole, which is something to do with the heartbeat. which I thought was a fantastic answer. Guess what I came up with?
Go on.
Bumhole.
Well done, Fisher.
So
was that the right answer?
I don't know. I didn't watch whether it was. No one else seemed to get it, unfortunately.
Right.
They did say blowhole was a pointless answer, which obviously is what Wales have got on top of them.
Yeah. Well,
so
there
we go.
Technically correct, I suppose.
Yeah. What have you been up to, Jimbo?
Well, what I've been up to, I've been trying to get this bloody live stream working, haven't I?
Oh, well, never mind.
No avail, no success. And also, I've prepared an amazing beer quiz, which I thought we'd do live on National Beer Day. But as it happens, no one's going to see it until tomorrow now.
Okay, well, when was National Beer Day? Was it yesterday or today?
No, today. Right now as we speak.
Well, if things had gone to plan originally, we'd do it a day early, wouldn't we? So.
Yeah, but in preparation for people ready for National Beer Day. Now it's gone afterwards. I mean, it's not the best day to have National Beer Day on, is it, anyway, on a Monday?
Not really. I mean, why have they locked it into a specific date and not just sort of like the last Friday of August or something like that?
Like Father's Day and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's next Sunday. So,
yeah.
If anyone wants to get me anything for Father's Day, because I'm a father, feel free to get me something that will actually get me a laptop that will work, or something that will help me live stream. Yeah.
It looks like you're trying to open your beer.
I am.
I'm assuming we're moving to that part of the show.
We are, yeah. On to the beers then. With it being National Beer Day, I've got a beer. I mean, we have one every episode, don't we, to be fair? And actually, if we'd have done this podcast yesterday, at the time we agreed, you wouldn't have had a beer because you said it was too early, even though the podcast was going to be largely about National Beer Day. And that was a bit disappointing.
It was about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, and I'd just finished my breakfast. I didn't fancy having a beer sort of first thing in the morning.
But it was National Beer Day podcast.
Okay, so what are you drinking, Jimbo?
Commitment to the cause, Fisher. So this then is Little Victories, which I was hoping to be able to say, you know what? It took us a bit of time, but we finally got on live streaming. It's Little Victories, as it is. I suppose the little victories that we're actually managing to record it, I suppose.
Okay. Well, I've got a drink called Nevermind. So obviously it's UK National Beer Day. So I've got a Belgian lager. I've got some Stella Artois, as Mickey Flanagan would call it. Are you drinking out of the bottle?
I'm drinking straight out of the bottle.
All right, I think
I'm more creative with your beers, Fisher.
Well, to be honest, it's just kind of what I've got, so I might as well drink it at some point.
You need to get onto some of our fine local beer breweries and delivery services and get yourself a stock of some tasty stuff. I tell you what,
give over. You've only got this because you changed jobs at work and they sent you that as a present.
But I prepare. I always go to the Asda and I find something different if I can, which is getting difficult. But right, I'm not like this. Might be the best. This might be the best one I've had on the podcast from first sip. This is beautiful. Not
being funny, but you said we should embrace the local beer services and the local brewers, and you just said I've been to the Asda to get mine.
No, that's because it was in lockdown and before the beer delivery services kicked back in. So, but anyway. So, how's your Stella Artois, Fisher?
I don't know. I've not poured it. I'm having it out the glass because I'm a very cultured young man.
Well,
anyway. One of those three, anyway.
So, do you want to do? In fact, hold on. Give us a second. Thought I'd give you time to pour your beer, but what's your show and tell this week, Fisher?
I've changed items just before going live on broadcast.
It's not a WOWS that would have helped us with live streaming.
It is not. It was going to be a piece of headwear, but I've decided against it. And it was only because I was wearing this shirt. It reminded me of what happened on one of the first times I wore this shirt. And there's two options. Well, the first times I wore this shirt was going down to a local pub, commercial, Station Road, Chapeltown. There we go. Promoting an actual local business there, Jimbo, that sells beer as opposed to the Asda.
Do you drink Stella Artois there as well, Fisher?
Nah, they don't sell it anymore. I will drink some real ale, or I will drink whatever continental beers they've got. It's quite lively, isn't it? Going bonkers, it's fizzing all over the place, my Stella.
I'll not lie. This one I've got is seriously up there. If I'd have kept a list of best beers I've had on the podcast, this is going to be up there. It's really nice. I didn't tell you enough about it. Mondo Brewing Co. Little Victories Session IPA 4.3%. I kind of wanted to say it tastes a bit. It's got raspberry in it, but I don't think it has. I think that might just been a bit. I don't know, something going on in my head, but it tastes really nice.
Okay. Well,
Right, to cut in there.
Yeah, thanks for that. So what's that going to do with the shirt that I'm wearing? So anyway, it's the shirt I'm wearing. So I'm not sure if you can see it. It's got sort of like red and white stripes on it, or sort of like a maroon and red and white stripes.
Aren't you a Sheffield Wednesday fan?
I am a Sheffield Wednesday fan, but I'm allowed to wear colours that aren't Sheffield Wednesday colours.
I couldn't bring myself to do that.
Oh well, never mind. Well, that probably says a lot about the fashion choices that you made in life. So, on the first occasion I wore this, or one of the first occasions I wore this into a local pub, a fellow customer turned around to me and said, "Hey up, where's Wally's here?" Or is it on the first occasion, or one of the first occasions I wore this into the local pub, a fellow customer said to me, "I really like that shirt. Whereabouts did you get it from?" And I said, "I don't know, I could get it from whichever shop I got it from." He said, yeah, I've been looking for something like that. Reminds me of the kind of thing my granddad would have worn.
Oh, right, okay. Was this the same person you're talking to who said this? Is it someone you know?
It was. Well, one of them's not true, so let's say that on each occasion it was the same person.
Okay, and is this person somebody that you know, or was they a customer you'd not seen before?
No, it's someone I know fairly well.
Okay, so were they saying any of those in a jokey sense? Oh, well, obviously the first one would have been a jokey sense. I don't think he actually thought you were "Where's Wally?"
No, no. I mean, to be fair, you wouldn't be able to find me if I was. Surely, otherwise that'd defeat the whole object of that.
Could find the wizard, could find the candy canes, the dog, but he couldn't find you. So, but the second one, where he said, reminds me of something my granddad would have wore. Was he saying that in a jokey sense as well, or was he being serious that he wanted something like it?
I think he was saying it in quite an affectionate style, to be honest. That it might have been his grandfather.
So he was serious when he said it in that version of events.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was referenced to the kind of collar on it, which is a bit unusual.
Yeah.
So it's not particularly a polo shirt. It's not. I think it's not often you get obviously a polo shirt are the ones with the collars on there. So it's a t-shirt, but it's got kind of a button-up top on it, which is.
I think I remember them being in fashion.
Your granddad had one, didn't he?
Exactly, yeah. No, but I remember wearing those types of tops, and I would say it was probably like about 2012, 13. I remember them first being something that was kind of popular at the time, maybe.
I don't have to break it to you, Jimbo, but I probably did buy this top in about 2012, 13, maybe even before then.
There you go. So that's okay. Yeah. So did this? It's a gentleman. This person who said it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And have you wore it many times since, or did it kind of put you off wearing it?
No, I still wear it. I don't care what people think about my dress sense, Jimbo. You know that. You've seen some of the things I've worn over the years.
And then just hair. But I'm joking.
To be fair, that is going all over the place a little bit at the moment. Well, yeah. I mean, to be fair, some people have had the lockdown haircut, so they have had it shaved off or whatever. But yeah, I've still not had mine touched at all in the last sort of 4 or 5 months. Not sure about yourself.
There's a Sheffield Wednesday player who had hair treatment, like the artificial
the Wayne Rooney style,
yeah. And he's got a headband in now. That's how much it's worked. He's actually had to have one of those headbands in to prevent it from going in his face.
Yeah. Well, good on him. So yeah, I do wear this. I've taken it on holiday with me before. I've got a pair of shorts that it kind of matches with, so it makes quite a nice outfit. Matches with a microphone as well, so I thought it good for podcasting. I don't know whether I've worn this for a previous podcast or not. I don't think I have.
So I don't think it stands out to me as I mean, it's hard to tell over Skype because it does kind of go a bit weird.
I don't know if it's strobing a bit, maybe.
Strobe a little bit, yeah. But I don't think it stands out to me as Where's Wally. It doesn't even look like quite the right tone of red.
No, it's a little bit. To be fair, it is a little bit darker than Where's Wally.
Is it a bit more maroon?
Maybe it's a little bit more maroon, yeah. But then, to be fair, it's not often you see people in red and white striped t-shirts that look like Where's Wally. So, it's probably a similar colour to what the baddie wears, but it's not got the yellow in between it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think in that case, then it's the other one that sounds more believable. And they said it either jokingly or they were serious. and they said that it reminds them of the granddad, and I think that would have made you think, oh. So there you go. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Okay, and you would be correct. Well done.
I've got a terrible record when it comes to quizzes, but I've got a good record when it comes to your show and tell, haven't I?
Yeah,
and you've got a bad record when it comes to my show and tell.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to choose something different, which I'll use another week. But just literally as I was coming into the studio, by studio I mean bedroom. I remembered I was going to say to you actually one of the first times I wore this top, this happened. I thought actually I might as well use it for show and tell item instead. So I thought maybe making up the Where's Wally thing was possibly feasible.
There we go.
But it did say, yeah, that's the kind of thing my granddad would have worn. It's got a granddad collar on it. Look, which I think I think he said it in an affectionate way. He seemed to, or if not, it could keep a straight face when he was saying it.
Well, maybe he was a very stylish granddad, and you could take it as a compliment.
Well, yeah, let's hope that.
Months of lockdown is really taking its toll on people's bodies. Maybe it's time to try something new and prepare for the new normal. Introducing Zumba! A virtual fitness class to music. So it's a bit like fitness dance, Zumba. But it's different because it's online, on Zoom, and it's called Zumba! Work off that lockdown booty. Burn off those COVID calories. Pick up your dumbbells and Zumba with us. If you don't have dumbbells or weights, just use a baby or a small child. We're even releasing our own branded energy bars. Want to know what we've called them? Yep, you've guessed it. Zumba! Zumba with us today. Babies and small children should be wearing full protective clothing should you wish to use them as weights in our fitness classes. If you don't have babies or small children, you can buy them from us. Okay, so it is time for the National Beer Day quiz. Are you ready for this, Fisher? I'm really proud of this quiz. I think you're going to really enjoy it. And I think listeners would have enjoyed listening to it, watching it and taking part in it live as well. Sadly, wasn't to be.
Yeah, they can take part in it sort of at their leisure when listening to it, can't they?
They can do. But one day I'd like to pit the listeners against you in a live situation. Although technically, we're not always live, are we? Because the listeners are kind of like a couple of minutes behind us, aren't they, sometimes?
I think it's only about 20 seconds or so, something like that.
Anyway.
But that said, with the speed we go at, that could be miles behind Jimbo.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
It's National Beer Day today, and I thought I'd do a beer quiz for you, okay? So it's not going to be particularly about, in particular, beers or anything. It's going to be about things to do with beer and drinking and those kind of things, okay? You did something a bit similar a few weeks ago when you did something about things people have done while drunk. So it's not going to be much about that, but it's going to be more about other types of things. So first one then, a Glasgow man is reported to have had the longest ever recorded hangover after drinking 60 pints in one session. 60 pints. How long is the hangover said to have occurred over? Okay. You've got three options. A, 14 days. B, 24 days. Or C, 28 days. And 60 pints is a lot. My friends and it's not something I do because I get very bored after drinking so much, and my body cannot deal with the same flavour and the bubbles, and I just can't. I can't do it. I think I get to about maximum 7 or 8, and I've had enough. I need something more refreshing or something different. But anyway, so I couldn't drink 21, 60 pints in one go. But my friends aim for 20. Well, their aim is for 21 because one of the dads in the group said that he did 21 once, which I think is a myth, but people think it's real, so they always aim for 21. I think they've managed a couple of times, but it can't be good for you.
Say, how far have they got in the attempt at doing 21 pints?
I believe they've done it, apparently, but I like I said, I don't know. I not something I ever want to try.
So what beer was it? I think even
20... standard lager.
Yeah. You thought even 21 pints of water would be quite telling, because you just keep having to go to the toilet all the time, wouldn't you?
Yeah. That reminds me, Fisher. Just need to...
Not after last week. Yeah, we weren't meant to sort of do an apology of the week, but haven't we skipped the order again, by the way?
Never mind. Yeah. So I was supposed to apologise for leaving Fisher last week while I went to the toilet for the first time in however many years we've been doing this podcast, or how many episodes.
Well, we're on to episode 67 today, aren't we? So
I had to get my bottle opener before.
Yeah, trying to think when we started doing this. 2012. Yeah. Oh God, 8 years.
9 episodes.
I know we had a hiatus for a while, didn't we, for about 4 years? But yeah, we've been back and going strong for the last 3 years or so. But anyway, back to the question. So, how much did he have to drink? I think even having a hangover lasts for 2 weeks.
He had 60. He had 60
pints. Yeah.
It's how long is a hangover? 14 days, 24 or 28 days.
Even a hangover for 14 days seems like a long time. Even if you had 60 pints, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of beer. But you'd have thought sort of after 3 or 4 days it'd sort of clear up.
Yeah, but I do believe that I have had hangovers that have probably gone into maybe when they've been bad. It's certainly like pushing on a week when you've just not felt right for a week. Yeah, I think so. Now now I'm a bit older. I must admit, it's times when I've really gone over the top and should have thought about what I was doing.
Put a dash of lemonade on top of it.
I never. When have you been abroad? I never seem to get as bad a trouble in the morning with hangovers.
Oh, it's because the beer's watered down a lot more. And if you're drinking beers for €1 on the seafront, wherever it is, it's only it's not proper beer. It's only watered down stuff. It's only a few percent. That'll be why. Same as if you're in an all-inclusive hotel. So how long does hangover last for? I think it might be 24 days.
Okay, and you would be incorrect. It lasted 4 weeks, 28 days.
28 days.
And it was diagnosed by a hospital, or the hospital in Glasgow, because he went in after about a week saying he's still suffering with these headaches, and he couldn't, and they couldn't put the finger on what it was, but they worked out that it was actually still a hangover he was suffering from after he told them what he'd done, and they monitored him and looked at him and everything, and they reported that still 4 weeks later he was still having the same symptoms, and then he came off it. So there you go.
Of course, they gave him blood test, didn't they? And it all came out all foamy and everything.
And next then, at any given time, what percentage of the world's population is drunk? Okay. Is it A, 0.7%, B, 4.3%, or C, 7.9%?
Well, I mean, I don't think it can be that many, because not everyone drinks. Bear in mind, there's certain countries where I think drinking probably is not particularly very popular at all. Because I'd be intrigued to know kind of what percentage of the population actually are, of the entire world are drinkers. So I think it's going to be the lowest, and even then, you don't see people drunk all the time anyway. I mean, so 1 in 100. I think it's going to be the lowest one. I think it's going to be 0.
Have you ever been to Barnsley?
Well, yeah, but we're talking about the entire world, not just Barnsley, Jimbo. And to be fair, I'm sure those good folk of Barnsley, yeah, they might have had one too many Barnsley bitters, but they'll be fine. There's a difference between having consumed alcohol recently and being drunk as well, haven't there? So I think it's going to be the lowest one out of lots. Did you say it was 0.7%?
Yep. There you go. Yeah, 0.7% of 0.6 are in Ireland. Only joking. No. So yeah, you're right there. That's 50 million people at one time in the world are drunk. Apparently, imagine if all them met up.
Yeah, it'd be a great night out, wouldn't it? Amazing. So that's almost, you're knocking on towards being close towards the entire population of England there, I think, aren't you?
Yeah, which is 60 million in the UK or something like that.
I think near towards about 70 million nowadays, but
yeah,
around that. So I think England probably about sort of 60 million or so.
So the world's strongest beer has what alcohol percentage? A, is it 45.6%, B 58.9%, or C 67.5%?
Does it say who this is made by? Is it made by Brewdog?
It is. It's not made by Brewdog. It is brewed in Scotland, and it's called Snake Venom.
Ah, right. Because I think for a while, Brewdog's I think fairly well-known brewing company nowadays. Made a few drinks. Sort of, I think made one called Sink the Bismarck and one called Tactical Nuclear Penguin, which were very, very strong beers, and they were, I think, about 45%. So, did you say it was an option that was sort of 50 or so percent?
58.9%, and the last 67.5%.
I'll go for 58.9%.
So well done on eliminating one of the answers, because Brewdog do something at the sort of 45 mark, or you think they did. So you kind of did right there, but you didn't go high enough. It was 67.5%, which I think is what the Glasgow man was drinking. 60 pints of. I'm pretty sure he won't last that long. Can you remember what the strongest percentage beer you've ever drank is?
I'm sure I've drunk some that have been about 10%, so some real ales that you have at some of these real ale festival events and what have you. There's a beer called Old Tom that I've drunk before, and I think that's about a 10% beer. So I can't remember who made it, but I got given it in one of those real old style things that your granddad would have. So it went all right with the collar. No, it got it was got like sort of all that almost that ice cube texture on the side of it.
Oh right, okay.
And a handle. So yeah, I drank it out of one of those. Old Tom, I think it was 10 point something percent. As you're asking the next question, I'm going to try and Google it and work out what percentage it was.
Well, it was the strongest beer I've had was also probably the same place you had your strongest beer then, at the Commercial in Chapeltown. Big shout out to them once again. We keep giving them a shout. Basically, our podcast local, aren't they? If the podcast was on a local pub, that would be it. So I drank some Durham Redemption at one of their beer festivals, which was 12.5%. And it was like drinking treacle. It tasted more like red wine, but it was a beer, and I wasn't well. Basically, I stood at the bar with my mate Ed, and we said we're going to go for this strong one, having a bit of a laugh at herself. So I ordered mine. Ed sat there, watched me have a sip and pull a face. Ed goes, "I'll have a Yorkshire Blonde, please." So I'm sat there drinking this drink. It was. I mean, people would say it was very nice who like beer and who like that strong kind of beer, but it really wasn't for me. No, it was a dark beer as well. I tend to prefer lighter beers, but they do say that the darker the beer is, the more alcohol it tends to have in it, apparently, is the general rule. Next then, at the World Wife Carrying Championships in Finland, the prize is the wife's weight in beer. What would be the minimum amount of beer you could win in pints based on the minimum weight entry criteria? Okay.
Oh, I'm just guessing.
No, I can give you pints if you like.
Yeah, go on.
So A, 56.7 pints, B, 86.2 pints, or C, 104.2 pints. So which of those is the minimum you could win based on what the minimum weight criteria is to enter? So you can't basically carry a child in the World Wife Championships. It's not like some of those Malaysian countries. I'm only joking, of course.
I think you kind of. I'm assuming that a pint weighs. I mean, in a pint of beer, it's 568 milliliters in a pint, and I'm presuming that equates to 568 grams. So, say 100 pints. So
if I'd given you like, how much does 10 pints weigh or something like that?
Yeah, so
out for you?
I think 10 pints would weigh about 5.68 kilograms, effectively, because bear in mind your beer is 96% water. It's going to have the same density as water. So I think the answer is going to be
half a kilo. 1 pint is roughly
half a kilogram.
Sorry, yeah. Is that right?
Yeah. Which is pretty much what I was saying.
Yeah.
Although I said 500 grams as opposed to half a kilogram. It's almost as I know what I'm talking about, and I've got an A level in maths, isn't it? So I think it's going to be. Was one of the options 56.8?
One of the options was. Let's have a look. 56.7 pints, 86.2 pints, or 104.2 pints.
Yeah, I'm going to say 56. No, it's not going to be 56.2 pints because that'd end up and that's in pints. So if it was that, then the person would end up weighing about 30 kilos, wouldn't they? So was there an option that was? So what were the other two options then?
86.2 or 104.2.
I'm going to say 104.2 because I think that probably equates to weighing around 50 or 60 kilograms.
You did a lot of hard work there, a lot of leg work to try and get to that answer, but you just went a bit too far. So the minimum weight you have to beat enter the World Wife Championships in Finland, and there is a UK version, by the way, which then you go through to Finland. You get a place in Finland, and so on. We'll go to Finland. 49 kilograms you need to be, so that would be 86.2 pints.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've got my calculations wrong, but I did say about 50 or 60 kilos, so we're not too far off.
See, it'd be a shame. You kind of want your wife to be as heavy as possible, don't you? So that you win more beer, but then you're less likely to win.
It's harder to carry, yeah. So yeah, a real moral dilemma there.
But it's could you borrow a slightly heavier wife?
Yeah.
It's worth pointing out you don't that it's although it's called the World Wife Championships, it sounds like a quite old-fashioned sort of thing. They do have same-sex couples, and they have. It's all modern now. They are very inclusive as well. When I've actually looked at this, certainly the UK version is, and I believe Finland's the same. But I mean, something worth checking. Anyway, next then, John Evans holds the world record for balancing the most pints of beer on top of his head. How many pints is it? Is it 60, 125? 60, which is A, or B, 125, or C, 235?
Right. I mean, there was a girl I went with who I used to know who went down to the local pub who could do a similar thing, balancing pint glasses on her head. Her name was Beatrix.
I knew something was coming then. Did you say a girl I went with as well?
Oh, sorry, I meant girl I went to the pub with. Met in the pub, whatever.
Because that made me think there's a joke coming up here as well.
I've got you. Clearly a false story, what we're talking about. He doesn't know any girls. So I'm assuming it doesn't just balance them one on top of each other. So it must be. I'm assuming it's something along the lines of he balances them on a piece of plywood or something. Surely. Yeah,
well, you've seen people who I suppose at sport events and stuff in the like cartoons, you'll see them carrying things on the head, that kind of thing.
So I think it's gonna. I'm gonna say it's gonna be a lot. I'm gonna say it's the biggest one. So it was 325.
235 is the biggest
235.
one.
Yeah, we'll go for that.
Well done, correct. So yeah, he got 235 on top of his head, and he's actually he's had his head scanned and researched by the University of Glasgow to see whether that man who had all those drinks could, instead of drinking them, balance it. No, I'm joking. No, University of Derby did some tests on him to see what was going on with his head, and was it any different to anyone else's, and is he got a solider skull and all those kind of things. Don't actually know what the outcomes are of that, but anyway.
Yeah, the outcome was that he got more time on his hands than anyone else, and therefore could actually do these things where he balanced stuff on his head.
Surely he had accidents and mishaps doing with this trick, and he must have got covered in and wasted a lot of beer at some point. Yeah. How did you get him off your head? Getting him off your head must be a nightmare.
He must use plastic pipe box. Surely he can't use glass ones, because otherwise it would just.
Well, no, but it's going to get them back off his head. Surely a lot of beer is going to be wasted. So do you think people put straws in and just
and drank it all
around him and just drink?
How do you think they did like those fountains that you get at weddings with the champagne glasses? And they poured it into the top one and just flowed all the way down with lager. Well, surely why would they put a lager in it? Surely you just put water in there. It's not as there's any. Well, as we've already identified, there's no major difference with density.
Good point, but then for the Guinness World Records, I bet it's that particular that you have to have balanced a certain type of beverage on your head.
Wait, so if it's Guinness World Records, and make sure they did Guinness in there.
Good point.
Which
brings us nicely on to the next question, actually. More Guinness is drank in Nigeria than Ireland. True or false?
Obviously, it's popular in Ireland, particularly on some. Well, it's popular in Ireland anyway. Actually, is it popular in Ireland? I don't know. It's popular with British tourists in Ireland. I know that much. I do think that I've seen that a few African countries, in particular, are very keen drinkers of Guinness. So I think Nigeria could be one of. I think there's a couple of other countries as well that drink a hell of a lot of Guinness. So I think it's true that more Guinness is drunk in Nigeria than Ireland. I think I've been on the tour of the Guinness storehouse, and I think it came up there when I did that in 2009.
Yeah,
good memory I've got from 11 years ago.
So it's true, and yeah, it's a weird one. In fact, the Nigerians, or in whichever country it's popular in as well, because obviously, like you said, they're all over countries. They don't even really know, in many cases, where the drink originates from, because it's just kind of what they've had forever. And even Guinness are quite clever at marketing the fact that this, because they want it to have a bit of ownership to a sense of ownership to the African countries as well, because they drink it because a lot of the marketing's about it making you strong, and which apparently there are certain qualities to Guinness, aren't there? That there's some beneficial qualities to Guinness as well. Some of the things that are in it, like, is it the iron content?
I was going to say it's got a lot of iron in there. I've heard years ago that pregnant ladies were recommended that they should drink Guinness.
Well,
whether or not that's true or
from
not,
the
I don't know.
research I've done in Nigeria, they say that it's even good for your sexual performance, and again, that's another reason it might be quite well drank. But it is, but it's slightly different as well. So it's not, if you had a version of it from Nigeria, it probably wouldn't taste like the same drink. But yeah, there you go.
I think they say the same, that it's the version you drink in the UK, in England, is very different to the version you drink in Ireland. Although I've been drunk in both England and Ireland, I really couldn't tell the difference whatsoever.
I've never personally been a fan of Guinness. A lot of friends are, and a lot of my friends don't really drink real ales or don't really like real ales that much. But they are also the ones that like Guinness, which I find a bit strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go.
Do you know what kind of drink Guinness is?
It's a stout, isn't it?
No, it's a porter.
Is it not? Oh, I thought it was a stout.
It's a porter, not a stout. Yeah, apparently.
A lot of people get that wrong.
I think so. Yeah, it was only been on the Guinness tour, a number of years ago.
Get off! This is my quiz. Give it over.
The next question is: Guinness a porter or a stout?
Well, actually, we're sticking with Guinness. 1,000. Sorry, I'm going to get this completely wrong. 162,719 pints of Guinness are wasted each year because of what? Okay. Is it A, drip trays, because Guinness heads tend to be more frothy and more froth is pushed off the top to make sure you've not got too large a head? Or is it B, moustaches?
Yes, it gathers in the moustache, and yeah.
This didn't feature in your moustache quiz the other week, did it?
It didn't, no. So it must not be true then. I think that it will drop into the drip trays. I think a lot of it will just kind of you'll wait for that. People getting. You meant to. There was a thing on the advert years ago, wasn't it? It takes however long to pull the perfect pint of Guinness. I think it's about 80 seconds, something like that. So I think
maybe that's why their slogan used to be "Good things come to those who wait." Possibly.
Yes, I believe that's the case. So I think it probably is.
By those waiting for our live stream, you wait, and it'll be better than ever. We'll have sparkly jackets on, fireworks, pyrotechnics.
Yeah.
We'll have smell-o-vision, everything.
Yeah, I suspect we probably won't. So try and manage the expectations there a bit. But I think it'll end up in drip trays, because I think people get too impatient at pouring the pint. They'll pour more in, and they'll let it just seep out into the drip tray.
No, so I think more is probably wasted in drip trays, but the number, I think a lot more is probably wasted in drip trays, but the number there, 162,719 pints, is actually lost in moustaches because of the frothiness of a Guinness.
That's a very accurate number, isn't it? That they've
like after a night out, they should take the moustaches off, wring it out, and save up the Guinness and have it the next day up, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Or, just when they get in, when it's time to draw the curtains, helps you perform better in bed and all that.
Just sort of lick it off your moustache.
Yeah. Next then. Okay, we're going to get a bit explicit now, I'm afraid. So anyone who's got children nearby, I suggest you switch off the audio or just take it away to another room. I'm going to a warning: explicitness is coming up. Okay, and I can't help it because it's part of the quiz, and I'm not purposely being explicit. I'm just saying, I'm just doing the quiz. Okay, so apologies in advance for this. Okay, anyone who doesn't like swearing, but you'll see that it forms part of the quiz. It's relevant. Okay, I'm not going to swear for no reason, and we never do that, do we? We never swear for no pissing reason, do we? Anyway,
so you can't even bring yourself to say a proper swear word, can you?
Well, you're gonna get one, okay? So there is a beer with an explicit name named after a village in Austria. But what is the beer called? Are you ready, Fisher? Is it A, fucking hell, or is it B, cunting Lichter?
Well, to be fair, actually, I'm trying to cover my ears, but all I'm doing is pressing the headphones in closer towards my ears, meaning that I got your swear words even louder.
Yeah. So, A, do you want me to repeat the
I don't want you to repeat the words. No, of course not.
You're going to have to give one of them, though.
Well, I'll answer it
You've
either
got
A or B.
you've got the
Won't
old debate of whether you give the you give the answer as the one that you prefer to say live. Well, not live, as we've covered already. The one that you'd rather say on the podcast, or you give the answer that you think's the right answer.
Well, that makes it suggest that I think you know full well I probably want to say the option B live on the podcast. But I think it's A.
Do you really think it's A, or do you just don't want to say the other one?
No, I think it's A because I think there is a town called that in Austria.
So I need your answer, please.
Because I think the place called A often has their road sign stolen. I was reading a news report about it a number of years ago that there's a town called Effing in Austria.
What's your answer?
It's A.
No, I need your proper answer.
What did you say for A was again?
You know what's the answer?
I know it was called fucking something, but I can't remember the second part of the name.
You've said the worst bit. Hell.
Hell, okay.
Well done. So yeah, there is a town called that in Austria. I'm not going to repeat it any more than I need to. And Hell is actually in German, because it's a German beer. It's actually Hell's German for pale. So
right, okay.
From. Okay, next then. 9. Beer and what have the same levels of acidity? And again, I thought we've used explicit. Well, it's not really explicit. It's not explicit. It's not explicit. It's a scientific term. So A, what's got the same acidity as beer? Is it A, skunk spray? B, Schweppes lemonade? There's no phony friend on this, I'm afraid. Sorry, Fisher. Or your dad. C, a vagina.
Well, surely the third option doesn't have a acidity rating, I wouldn't have thought. B, it can't be Schweppes on the line. I'm assuming you just put that in there just to annoy me and make reference to my dad working at Schweppes, even though he doesn't work at Schweppes and never has done.
Well, maybe that's why I put it in.
Or a skunk spray, which is it called must? A skunk spray?
Not sure.
Yeah, I think it's called must. I think it must be that. I'm going to say it's A. Skunk spray.
No, you obviously don't know enough about Schweppes. I'm only joking. No, it's not. It is a vagina, apparently. Has the same levels of acidity.
Just a vagina? Does it have to be a specific one or just kind of any?
I'd like to know how the research was done there. Like,
Yeah.
What were they doing? What were they doing to work that out? Anyway, why? I don't know. Anyway, next. This is your last question.
Okay.
10. Carlsberg Special Brew was created for who? A, Harold Wilson. B, Winston Churchill in a box. It's Churchill in a metal box. It's Churchill in a box. Or was it C, Peter Schmeichel?
Well, Peter Schmeichel obviously is from Denmark, the same as Carlsberg. So I don't see particularly, because the special brews are really strong stuff in it, so it's kind of like Carling Gold Label or Carlsberg Special Brew. I think you're talking. Is it coming in the gold and red cans? Yeah,
is it supposed to be like a bit like sort of like a homebrew type taste, or like almost like they tried to recreate a homebrew type thing? Is that what they?
No, I think it's just very strong, because I think you're talking beer that's sort of 7-8% kind of thing. So it's very, very strong. So basically, if you want to get drunk a lot faster than you generally speaking would drink that instead of your normal session beers, as it would as people would refer to them as. So could it be Churchill? Could it be Harold Wilson? I don't see why it would be Harold Wilson. Obviously he's from Huddersfield, isn't he? Local lad. Churchill could be. Why specifically would you create a really strong beer for Churchill? Why would people from Denmark create a strong beer for Churchill?
Now, so he's gonna need something to pass the time.
Yeah, doesn't know how long he's going to stay in there for. I think, obviously, for Churchill did his famous speech, didn't he? We will fight. I gotta feel a bit sick now. Obviously, which was no, I'm not joking. I think it would be Churchill. Of course, he was accused of being drunk, weren't he? Was it? So did someone say to him once, "Winston Churchill, you are very drunk," and his response was something along the lines of, "Well, you're very ugly, but the good news is I'll be sober in the morning." Making a suggestion that she'll
Yeah.
be permanently. Is it Lady Astor, I think.
Mm,
So,
no idea.
yeah, there we go.
Anyway,
that's one to research for next week.
Happy National Beer Day.
Yep.
To everyone listening, although it won't be by the time you're listening to this. But I hope you enjoyed the quiz. Fisher, I think you did fairly well there. I think you probably got half marks, did you? Or, well, I suppose that's not really very good, is it?
Well, there were 3 options, so as long as you're getting more than 33%, I'm doing all right, yeah.
Yeah.
I tend to give you 1 out of 2 for my quizzes as opposed to 1 out of 3.
Yeah, but I want to be more creative, didn't I? You know, and I thought it'd be more fun for the listeners who could take part while watching live, but obviously it didn't happen, did it?
Never mind.
Anyway, get over that soon.
Very good. Thank you very much, Jimbo.
Enjoyed that, though?
Yeah, it was good. Well done.
Sure you enjoyed it?
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you mean no? I said yes.
Are you running out of comedies to watch now that they're all being removed off Netflix and the BBC? Not to worry. We know where there's a great comedy podcast you can listen to. Sadly, it's not us. But there are plenty of great comedy podcasts on many of the popular podcasting platforms. Give them a try. So on to the news then, Fisher. Do we want to start with the kind of stuff that's been kind of rumbling on?
Can do. I mean, there's been... Obviously, we touched on Churchill earlier on. As I was saying, his statue being defaced by protesters. There were a lot of anti-statue... there were people who were protesting against the protest and were there in London at the weekend sort of trying to protect statues. Although I think these people managed to find a common ground, didn't they? The protesters and the people protecting statues found a real common ground, which was sort of trying to beat policemen up, I think, by the looks of it.
Yeah.
Was my general understanding of it, which didn't seem very justified either.
Mm.
So it must have been an exceptionally difficult time for the policemen of the UK, who, generally speaking, do a very, very good job, and quite why it's thought necessary to put them under more pressure at the moment is a little bit beyond me. There was someone who has been imprisoned, I think, today, for urinating next to a memorial plaque for the policeman, I think his name's Keith, I can't remember what his surname is off the top of my head, who was stabbed in the Westminster Bridge attack 2 or 3 years ago.
So is this the one of the people who went down to sort of anti-protest against the protesters who were trying to get statues removed, and they went and urinated on an actual memorial statue thing?
It was Keith Palmer was the name of the deceased the policeman who was unfortunately stabbed to death. And the person who urinated on a statue was someone called Andrew Banks, 28. He was put in prison, I think, for 14 days. What he said was that he drunk 16 pints during Friday night and Saturday morning and had not been to sleep. That's absolutely nothing. That's I know a bloke who once drank 60. And I don't. There were some people who jumped out to defend him, saying that
Thing is, if he drank 60, then if he drank 60 rather than the 16, then by the end of his prison sentence, he would have been halfway through his hangover as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, you should have kept him in there for another 28 days to he fully another 14 days to fully sobered up. But yeah, there were some people who actually tried to jump out and defend him, saying that he'd actually had a piss next to the plaque as opposed to actually on it.
Oh,
right.
I think
it was great. Yeah, not a problem with that. Is there? I think
is that's probably the same excuse he uses at home. Like,
yeah.
I know I pissed on the floor, but it is next to the toilet, love. We've all tried that one before, haven't we?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's difficult, even if you have got something to aim with. But it's just the fact that they're there actually trying to protect statues and monuments, and he's caught doing that, which obviously was sort of he has ended up in prison over it, and probably rightly so. Although to some degree you do wonder whether it's kind of a bit of a media circus to put him in prison. But there's been a lot of television channels a lot of television programs rather that have been taken off air. I'm not sure if you've seen. I think is it Gone with the Wind has been removed from various online streaming things because I think it's got sort of some racial connotations, and also what do you think about Gone with the Wind? I think it was from 1930s maybe, and times very different then. And also the Matt Lucas and David Williams program Come Fly With Me has been removed from Netflix and I think from BBC iPlayer. And once again, all I can say is that that show that featured Matt Lucas with a black face on again, it was from a different time. 'Cause it was from 2010. That's a very, very different time, Jimbo. I mean, times have changed in the last 10 years.
I know it's not
Not
that
quite
long
as much as they have in the last 90 years, but
exactly.
nonetheless.
This is the thing, isn't it? Like there is a bit of understanding to be done here about what is inappropriate and what isn't, and I think there's a mass confusion of that, of people going, "Oh, what's about that? It's just comedy, isn't it?" Well, you know, some of it isn't. You know, like you say, is it necessary? A lot of the time, it's like, is what's necessary, isn't it? It's about, is that relevant? Is that necessary? Do you need to do that? Do you need to? It's that kind of thing, isn't it? And understanding that. So going back to what we said last week, the Bo Selector stuff, I still believe, and I know there might have been other characters in Bo Selector that I may have completely forgot about, and actually I was reminded of the Trisha Goddard character, who again possibly was, you know, possibly may have been more in breach of what we said wouldn't be appropriate. But when it come to characters like, certainly like the Michael Jackson one and the Mel B, it was more character based, wasn't it? Personality based, and I think quite a few, including John Barnes, stood out and said, I think they were more personality based. But then, yeah, when it comes to Bo Selector, when it comes to Little Britain, they were doing things they didn't need to make themselves appear as a black person in a lot of those sketches. Just like Ant and Dec, they didn't need to do that in theirs on the Saturday Night Takeaway. So it's about understanding, like, you know, what is necessary and what isn't, and what's the reasoning behind it. And
no need to do it. I mean, I suppose the point though goes with Bo Selector. I mean, if you want to play Michael Jackson, then he did actually have the option of playing as a white person, didn't he?
Arguably, yeah, true.
As things went on in Michael Jackson's lifetime.
Both options, yeah.
Yeah. So that was a joke I was making, Jimbo. Yeah.
Yeah, got it now. Yeah.
So talking about people who are doing things to make us proud, one person in particular is Marcus Rashford.
Yeah.
And the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, probably about 8-9 weeks ago, maybe, stood up at the government daily press conference, and he said that footballers should contribute. It's not fair that they sort of take a load of money and don't sort of give back to society. And I think we made the point that actually footballers do pay quite a lot of tax, and in fact pay significantly more tax than we do. So Marcus Rashford, I think he gets paid probably about £200,000 a week, and he seems to be very appreciative of where he's come from. And he has tried to give back, and he's tried to ensure that the government has extends their food vouchers for people who will be getting free school meals. He's asked that they continue that during the summer holidays, given the unusual times that we're living in. And he wants the sort of potentially 2 million children who are growing up in poverty, who don't quite know where their next meal is going to be, to ensure that they actually have food on the table. And I think that's a really, really great thing. And Marcus Rashford has stood up, and he's written to Boris Johnson today, and he's asked that we give, and he's put a hell of a lot of his own money into this as well, I would hasten to add, and drummed up a lot of support. And he stood up and he's done his thing, and he's put pressure on the government to do the right thing and to try and make sure that no one in our country goes hungry. And for that, I really applaud him.
That's a brilliant thing to have done. How's he gone on with that?
Oh, they've rejected it.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, Boris has said that he can't do it.
Can we put certain politicians and the Prime Minister in one of those encasings that they've been putting the statues in? In fact, I did see a funny tweet earlier, actually, saying that it was quite funny. Someone had took a picture of the Winston Churchill statue and said that this is brilliant. They've replaced the Winston Churchill statue with a statue of Boris Johnson hiding in a fridge.
Hey.
Which I thought was really good. I can't take credit for that, but it was I don't know where the tweet came from, but I found that very funny.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, talking about politicians, they're back in Westminster.
Yeah, they are.
Jacob Rees-Mogg has said that we should be leading from the front. All our politicians should be coming to Westminster to vote, and they should be attending the House of Commons. We shouldn't be doing it virtually. They should be here. And then what they should do once they've been to House of Commons is then disappear back to the 650 constituencies that they come from, and spread the virus as much as they can throughout the country.
He must not have got a comfy sofa at his home. He must prefer the comfy seating that he can lay down and go to sleep on.
So I think we've definitely had evidence of that in the past. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it would have been a real chance to modernise the House of Commons, and people said around the start of it that maybe we could have this chance to move with the times and move on by about sort of 150 years maybe, And Jacob Rees-Mogg definitely has taken us back that far in time. So well done, Jacob.
One thing I did see going back to sort of footballers, and you mentioned Marcus Rashford. Dwight Yorke has made a few comments recently as well, all to do with the race issues and the stuff that's been going on recently. He sort of spoke to a radio station, I believe it was TalkSport, talking about how he was stereotyped as being a playboy.
Okay.
Which I found quite amusing because was that a stereotype?
What evidence? What aside from the fact that he had a child with Katie Price, what evidence have you got for the fact he was a playboy?
Well, didn't he? Wasn't he in quite a lot of relationships? I'm just saying, like, wasn't there quite a lot of evidence that? Well, not. It doesn't matter if he's referred to as one. It's not saying that, you know, like people get called anything, don't they? If they've had a lot of, it's just what you get called. It's not particularly, you know, it's not something that sticks or anything. But I don't know. What do you think?
I can't say I've ever had that reputation, so I wouldn't know, in all honesty.
Yeah, go on.
Go on, then. I have, yeah.
What about that girl you took? Oh, that was a joke, weren't it?
Of course, yeah. So I don't know. Is it unfair? Is it not unfair? I suspect there's plenty of football players who do have multiple partners and probably aren't portrayed that way. People like, you know, Ryan Giggs, but then he did quite a lot to make sure that it got out of the newspapers, didn't he? So
I'd argue that I wouldn't personally say it's got anything to do with race if he was accused of being a playboy, because there are as many of those of other ethnicities and nationalities and various other things as well. I wouldn't necessarily have down that race is to do with that in this particular case. Is probably what I'm trying to say. But on to other things. Yeah,
should we talk about Hermes driver who his wife was going into labour?
Yeah, go for it.
Just a couple of months ago, actually. It's only just come out
Did
the
he
news in the last few days. Well,
yeah, have I just ruined something?
Yeah, just ruined that. Yeah. So he called the midwife. The midwife was rushing out. Apparently, the midwife got stopped by the police, saying, "You know, we're currently in lockdown at the moment. So can you please explain where you're going?" And that meant that she couldn't get there on time. So the Hermes delivery driver had to deliver the baby. It's a good job his wife was in, really. Otherwise, the baby would have been put in the blue bin and out put through the next door's letterbox.
I didn't ruin it too much for you then, did I?
Yeah, it's all right.
Iceland as well. Have you seen what they've done? Obviously, the I mean, this might have been a bit premature, but they adopted the penguins, didn't they, from Chester Zoo? Because obviously Chester Zoo and many zoos were undergoing a lot of financial difficulty during lockdown, and they have announced now that zoos can reopen and everything. But before that, Chester Zoo were really concerned that they might actually have to close their doors purposely and well forever, and even potentially they were even mentioning euthanizing animals because they just couldn't take care of them as they should be cared. It'd been more humane to actually euthanize them, is what they were saying. But Iceland, they adopted them.
Oh, right, okay. So does that mean you can buy them from them?
Yeah, can you buy them from Iceland? I'm going to be a bit unsure now about any chicken I buy from there in future. And do they come, you know, now that Iceland have bought them, if you went and bought a penguin from them, do they come with like jokes on them?
Yeah.
Certainly do.
Up at the side and...
Yeah. Could certainly do with them on our podcast, couldn't we?
Yeah. I mean, they are appallingly bad jokes, aren't they? Stuff on the side of the penguins. They do an unusual range of meats, don't they? Have you ever shopped in Iceland?
No, I haven't. I don't think I can honestly say I don't think I've ever been into an ice. Or maybe I have. Never mind.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not quite as posh as you. Yeah, not quite as posh as you, obviously, and we have been in Iceland. They do sort of like various frozen meats, like sort of pheasant and boar and all that sort of stuff, and various other things that you wouldn't normally expect to see.
Yeah.
And we went to we had a family member's 40th birthday a few months ago, and I was, for whatever reason, I've been in Iceland to get some macarons. They're called. So get some macarons from there. They'll be nice for their birthday, like contributing towards the buffet. The French Prime Minister, yeah. I mean, if you've seen the French Prime Minister, you can grab hold of him in two parts and shove him with some cream in the middle of him. And we'd said that my wife Vicky would do some pork and make some pork sandwiches for the birthday, like as part of the buffet. And I was there in Iceland, I thought, I'll get a big joint of pork in Iceland. It'll be all right, won't it? And there's some people who said, I'll tell you what, that pork's very nice. That's come from a farm shop. That pork's that nice. No, got it from Iceland this morning. And I didn't go down well. Opinions changed very quickly. Then.
I thought you were going to be telling porkies then, but
Hey.
anyway. I have been, I've heard that. I mean, I don't go there very often, but I have heard that Egyptian mummies particularly like Iceland because they sell a good range of bandages and various things like that. And I suppose that's why mummies go to Iceland. I mean, we ain't got a tumbleweed sound effect, have we?
Yeah. Should we move on to the next bit?
Well, the last thing I want to mention is the new things that government have announced, the new measures leading us out of lockdown, is that now people can have, I saw the headline, support bubble, and I thought, what's happened to Michael Jackson's monkey? I wasn't sure what was going on there. I thought as well as the penguins in Chester Zoo, Michael Jackson's former monkey might have been struggling as well, because he had a pet monkey, didn't he, called Bubbles?
Yeah, perhaps he got moved to Chester Zoo and then unfortunately has come into difficulty as Chester Zoo struggled.
And then I thought, as Michael Bublé been having struggles in lockdown as well. So, but that's the last thing I wanted to mention anyway. So, are we moving on?
Should we move on? I've got a quiz, so
let's go for it then. Okay, what you got for us?
Well, I don't know how I managed to think this up. I've got a quiz about protests.
Oh, well.
I'm not sure what... I was a bit concerned, actually, that just in case you'd done exactly the same thing, because we didn't really speak to each other much in terms of planning this particular podcast, did we? So I was a bit concerned that there must...
The last few days where we've just constantly been trying to get this thing working that we haven't been able to achieve.
Well, we've talked to each other a lot, but not about the podcast. We've not really done much planning at all. We've said, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, test. Oh, it's feeding back to me, Jimbo. Oh, it's feeding back in my earphones, Jimbo. Oh, no, we can't do it live. It's too noisy. So I've got a quiz about protests and things that have happened on protests. We need to wrap this show probably in about 20 minutes because Love Island Australia is coming on ITV.
Oh, for goodness sake.
New series starting. So,
where are your priorities in life?
Love Island. Well, because the UK version's not on, is it? This year, so we've got to watch an old Australian version. Just see what it's like. So,
an old? Is it even an old? Is an old series as well?
Oh yeah, they can't do it. Can't do a live one anymore, can they?
Yeah.
Coronavirus. So they've got to do an old version. So, let's run through this anyway. So, upset at government policies in Argentina. How did protesters show their frustration in November 2012? Did they bang pots and pans together, or did they blow whistles?
Pots and pans seems like a popular sort of thing to do in celebratory things rather than.
Well, a lot of people when we were doing the clap for NHS, I did see some people on our street with a wooden spoon and pots and pans and were banging the saucepans and stuff.
Yeah, nightmare when you're in the middle of cooking. Everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. Oh no.
Let's go then, because I think the pots and pans are more as a celebratory sort of thing, and particularly across in other countries as well, they like to do things like that. So I think it's more of a celebration thing. So I'm going to say the whistles.
Oh no, you're wrong. They bang pots and pans.
In that case, people might have been thought they've been cheered for rather than protested against.
Let's carry on doing what we're doing. The people really like it. Now, I think in South America, banging pots and pans is something of a popular protest thing.
Oh, right. Okay.
So years ago, when people government policy was making people go hungry, and Marcus Rashford wasn't around to sort of fight on their behalf, they used to stand outside and bang an empty pot and pan to sort of show that they had no food. So it used to be a popular way of protesting against the government, apparently.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about blowing whistles, what that quite does, whether it's just protest against poor decisions in the local football.
Yeah.
We don't like VAR. Let's blow this whistle. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
We've got a prop here, haven't we?
It's like a continuous whistle of protest, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's been on the side for the last 3 weeks since I did the John Anderson joke a few weeks ago. So, protesting in Mexico. What did protesters do in February 2019? Which led by an eccentric politician from Mexico City. Did they throw bandages at the officers of the ruling party to highlight the lack of good healthcare? Or did they throw soiled nappies at the office of the ruling party as a metaphor for what the ruling party was doing to society?
Did they get their bandages from the mummies who'd visited Iceland? Because mummies good. What's it? Mummies. That's why mummies go to Iceland.
Yeah, there we go.
I got there in the end.
Smoothly does it.
Okay, in that case, I think I seem to think I might. Where are they going to get all the nappies from? They're assuming that they've got to find people who've got dirty nappies in the first place and have enough of them stockpiled.
I've got some down here, actually. I don't know. I presume from babies who had defecated in them.
Let's go the dirty nappies. I seem to think I've heard of this before, but anyway, maybe I've not.
Well done, you will be correct.
We've both been to Mexico, haven't we, Fisher? Or have you not? No, you have.
I've been to Mexico. Yeah, I've been to Mexico. We've been to Mexico. Not together, but we've both been to Mexico. Very nice place. Be keen to go back again sometime. Although, because I think we asked that question, didn't we, about the seaweed on the beach and stuff?
Yeah.
So, anyway, in January 2017, what did members of the LGBTQ community, I think formerly known as the LGBT community, and now possibly known as the LGBTQ plus community.
I think there's quite a lot more letters added on to the end of that these days.
Yeah, it's difficult to keep track with, to be fair, isn't it?
It is.
So what was at the time called the LGBTQ community, what did members of that community do outside Vice President Mike Pence's house in January 2017? Did they lay flat on the floor in silence to highlight how downtrodden they felt, and how silent Mike Pence remained on LGBTQ issues? Or did they dance a bit more, and then carry on dancing?
I think that it would have been I don't see the point in the sort of silence laying. I mean, you don't want people laid down in your garden or outside your house. I get that, but if they're not making any noise, it kind of just. I suppose you might just try and get on with it, you know.
Well, it just ended up being like a silent protest, wasn't it?
Yeah. So let's say that I think they tried to make a bit more noise or a bit more of a scene, and they danced some more.
They did indeed dance, and carry on dancing.
Was Barbara Windsor in that one?
I don't know. Didn't she just lean back and the bra bounced off, like in the Carry On films? So moving on. What did angry dairy farmers do to the European Parliament building in Brussels in November 2012? Did they spray milk all over the building, or did they protest alongside around 300 cows who'd been brought into the city centre?
Now, bringing that many cows into a city centre must be quite difficult, and you know.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't have asked a question if it wasn't sort of quite notable, would it? So.
But that's what I'm saying. Is it realistic for that to have happened for a particular protest? You'd have to have a lot of different people with a lot of different lorries or whatever they transport cows on. I don't know.
Not sure if you're aware, but they can actually walk cows, so they've
got to get them to walk the right direction. And imagine getting cows to walk through Sheffield city centre.
That'd be all right. Just tell them, just walk in front of them and say, "Follow me."
Yeah. Let's go with. I'm not going to go with the cows one because I don't think it's realistic. So I'm going to go with the milk one. Although I think again, like if they were protesting against that kind of thing, I don't know why. I don't know, but yeah, let's go milk. I mean,
you don't know why they spray their own product all over the.
Yeah, but I'd hope that what building was it? What organisation was it against?
The European Parliament in Brussels.
Yeah, I hope they wouldn't have got upset about it because obviously they shouldn't cry over spilt milk. So, anyway, yes, I'm going to go with the first one.
Well done, you will be correct.
I'm doing well this week.
Very well. Is that 3 out of 4 so far?
Mm-hmm.
So, next up. In November 2015, following a ban on large-scale protests in Paris, following the terrorist attacks that they had in Paris in November 2015, how did people wanting to protest still make their point? Is it that they each left a pair of shoes in the location of the intended protest, or they each left a photograph of themselves at the location of the protest?
So again, I think unless I'm guessing they might have planned this in advance if it was going to be either a photograph or shoes, because either they've got to walk home with no shoes on, or somehow get home with no shoes, or they've got to have some photographs like ready and printed, because it's not really easy to get, people don't really have printed photographs as much these days, do they?
You can still get them, I think.
Unless you get older ones.
Well, you can go to Costco, or you can get those photo machines. They have to, can't you? Attach your phone to it, print it off, and you sort it straight away.
And I think
quite a good service, actually.
Photos would be a lot easier to get rid of. And I think shoes would have more of leave a big mark in,
They'd leave a big footprint, wouldn't they?
Depending on what they've trod in, yeah. So let's say, let's go with the shoes.
Okay, and again, well done, you'd be correct. You're on fire, well done. So, to protest about the re-election campaign of the president of Peru, what did a number of Peruvian women do in 2000? And I'm sure Peruvian men could have done this as well, I hasten to add. It's just that it happened to be women doing it, as far as I'm aware. Did they gather in the main plaza in Lima, the capital of Peru, and continually wash the national flag? Or did they gather in the main plaza in Lima and simultaneously write protest letters to the president?
Okay. With this one, I think that they could have wrote letters from home rather than just sort of there in the plaza, I suppose.
Probably wouldn't quite have the same point or same atmosphere to it, would it? People doing it all together. But to be fair, I mean, whilst you say that, they could have also washed the national flag at their house as well, as opposed to doing it in the main square.
Well, they could have. But I think they may have washed the national flag. I'm going to go with that one.
Wash the national flag? Again, you'd be right. Well done. 5 out of 6, 6 out of 7.
Yeah. Well, we're not live. I've just we just edited this, so it looks like I've got all the answers.
This has taken 4 hours to record this episode with that wrong answers given. Next up, February 2015. In order to protest at the gender-based violence, what did men in Turkey do? Did they protest whilst carrying women's underwear, or did they protest whilst wearing skirts?
And what was this a protest against again?
Gender-based violence.
I think, the other one was while carrying women's underwear.
Carrying women's underwear or wearing skirts. Carrying
it. Why not wear it?
Well, I mean, they're not perverts, are they? Jimbo, I suspect, the same as normal society, there probably were some blokes wearing women's underwear.
The second one was what? Wearing skirts, did you say?
Wearing skirts, or the first option was carrying
I'm going to go wearing skirts.
Wearing skirts? Oh, once again, well done. You're right.
I hope this quiz comes up again one day in the local pub or something.
Yeah.
Not sure it will, but anyway.
You're doing really well. Are you a secret protester? Is that what you're telling me? You protest just against anything throughout the world, anything you get involved in? Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be fighting for it. Doesn't matter what it is. Yeah, gender-based violence in Turkey, I'll fight against that. Oh, I don't like that president of Peru. Yeah, well, you better go.
Well, do you know how I like to make my point?
Via a podcast, normally.
Like this.
Oh, yeah. For any audio listeners, Jimbo just pointed towards the screen. So South Korea, in April 2007, in order to protest against the free trade deal with the United States, what did protesters do? Did they protest whilst aggressively jumping up and down, or protest whilst sat cross-legged? So I suppose the question is kind of what is the popular method of protest in South Korea, really? Is it to sit cross-legged, or is it to jump up and down aggressively?
I can't sit cross-legged. It's really difficult. Oh, is that what young age?
Is that why? Is that a protest that you can't kind of get involved in then in South Korea because you can't do the like sitting?
One of them they can't do.
Can you jump up and down aggressively?
Oh, I can do that, yeah, and I do sometimes. I felt like it earlier when we couldn't get the stream working. If I've mentioned that yet.
You jump up and down aggressively to highlight your inability to sit cross-legged. Is that right?
Yeah. No, I think I would have down South Korea. Did you say?
South Korea, yeah. In North Korea, you're not allowed to protest.
You have to protest in North Korea because the government are too good.
Yeah. What did protesters in North Korea do? They had their heads blown off. Yeah.
Let's say I think they are more of a peaceful type of protester in Korea, South Korea, I would say. And I think, yeah, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go that they went with the cross-legged.
Okay. And once again, you'd be correct. Well done.
I've actually got like everyone apart from one right.
Yes, you've only got. I've asked you 8 questions. You got 7 of them right so far. So I think I need to work. I did write these questions quite late on Saturday night, and I was in a bit of a rush. So maybe next time I need to put more effort into the questions, try and confuse you a little bit more. But what did Palestinian protesters in the West Bank do in February 2010 to highlight the segregation between the various groups of people? So obviously the West Bank, Gaza Strip, Israel and Palestinians are a long-running dispute there. So what did they do to try and highlight the sort of injustices of that? Did they dress as minions, or did they dress as characters from Avatar?
This is going to be more difficult, I think. I can't even start to work anything out. I don't know why minions. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the main character of Minions. There's obviously in Despicable Me, Gru. Well,
didn't dress as him, just the minions.
Yeah, but Gru is like their kind of leader. He's got a bit of an accent, like he might be from another country in Europe somewhere. I don't know if it is Israel or if it's anywhere like that. I don't know, and whether they're dressed as minions. I don't know, to represent that maybe. Avatar. Why would they? I don't know. I suppose it's to represent because I suppose in that film, it's a long time since I watched it, but I suppose it's about a race that was being not looked after. There was various things, weren't there, in that stuff to do with that. And so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the Avatar ones.
Avatars are all dressed in blue.
Yeah.
Again, you'll be correct. Well done. I'll be honest, I just thought they were dressed as Smurfs. But yeah, I've seen pictures of it, and yeah, there's a fair few people dressed in blue body paint.
I painted myself blue a few weeks ago, didn't I, Fishy? You saw me.
Of course, yes, I did. At your daughter's birthday, she was Curly 3.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you can play footage of her speaking.
Can I?
I don't know. Have you got it on your soundboard?
There was Fisher. I do a space podcast. Thank you.
Yeah.
Say thank you at the end of it.
She does, yeah.
Oh, very polite. Hang on, it was thank you, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So the dressed as characters from Avatar. When I went round to see you on your daughter's birthday and drop off some cookies and biscuits that got her name and age stamped on there, you came dressed as a genie.
I was, yeah.
In your full-on blue body paint, and
she loved it. But to be fair, she was scared. I made a big entrance, popped a party popper, jumped out after she'd rubbed this imitation lamp that I'd given her, a toy lamp, and she started crying straight away. But then she warmed up to it and she liked it afterwards.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, a lot of effort there.
Well done. So final question.
Yeah, here we go. I want to finish with what is this, number 10 or number 9? This question.
This is number 10. You've got so far 8 correct and 1 wrong.
I want 90%.
So, what did protesters in Bangkok do in response to the government's recent actions? I don't quite know what year that was, unfortunately. I think it might be in 2010, but I don't know for certain. Is it cut off their hair and throw the hair in front of the Parliament building? Or is it get blood donations from protesters and pour their own blood on the floor?
So cut their own hair or pour their own blood on the floor?
Yeah. So what kind of part of their own body did they throw on the floor in front of the Parliament building in disgust? Their hair or their blood?
I think I'm going to go the extreme one, I think. Okay. Because I think that would really send a message, if it's something about the treatment of people, or, like sort of saying you've got blood on your hands to the government or something like that, which I don't know what it was about and no idea. But I'm going to go with that one, I think.
They threw blood on the floor?
Yeah.
You'll be correct. Well done. 9 out of 10.
That's got to be my best ever performance in one of your quizzes.
Yeah, probably by about 9 points or so. Really is a solid show, so well done. That's absolutely fantastic, Jimbo. To be fair, you pretty much just guessed all your way there anyway, and you didn't know the answer to any of them, but that's a very good effort. Well done.
It was good guessing today, that's the difference.
Yeah. I I'm not quite sure how he did that. So normally I'd expect to get around half marks, but some good educated guesses. Or if you like, probably some poor questions, to be fair, but never mind.
I know you're itching to watch Love Island, Fisher, so if to make up for the fact that I got up and did a wee last week in the middle of the podcast and left you on your own, feel free to run away now while I wrap up the podcast if you want to.
No, sorry, we've got 2 minutes. We've got 2 minutes, we're fine.
Sure.
We'll just get a move on. Hurry up.
Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Sorry we aren't live, and we did say we would be live on a number of occasions. We have tried, and we will try again next week because we'd like people to be able to interact and answer these questions and take on each other, take on the person being quizzed and in each week's thing. Could you have beaten me in that quiz and got 9 out of 10? You probably might have beat Fisher earlier on in the National Beer Quiz because Fisher didn't do too well. But we'd like to know, and that's why we want to do things live if we can. We will continue to try. But please get in touch. Let us know what you thought of the show. Tweet at Waste of Web Space or at on Facebook, same sort of thing, Waste of Web Space. Is our website as well, wasteofwebspace.co.uk. But yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for listening to us. Anything you want to say before we go?
No, just thank you very much. I think you did a fantastic job today, Jimbo. You've guessed your way. The amount of things you got right. You got the show and tell item right. You've 9 out of 10 on the protest quiz. So well done. I'm assuming usual service will resume next week.
Yeah,
and then we'll take it from there.
I thought you was going to say something about me not getting the streaming right there, and I was going to swear back at you anyway. But anyway,
no, so I mean, you did swear on 2 occasions during the podcast, but never mind.
Bye bye. See you next time.
Goodbye. See you next time. Bye bye.